Hello, everybody. Josh Brown here, back for another great episode on Franchise Euphoria. Well, today's episode is brought to you by IndieFranchiseLaw.com, a leading resource in the franchise space to help you if you're considering buying a franchise, turning your business into a franchise, or growing your business through a licensing or franchise structure. So go on, check it out, IndieFranchiseLaw.com. I think you'll find a lot of valuable and free information as you continue to kind of weigh franchising and licensing and the growth of your business. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy today's episode. On today's episode of Franchise Euphoria, we've got John Ferracuti of the Been There, Dump That franchise. That's BIN There, Dump That franchise. He's got over 25 years experience in franchising, and John has a unique perspective on the industry. He's been an award-winning franchisee, a successful franchisee recruiting executive, marketing support manager, and now he's the executive leader of Been There, Dump That, a truly unique franchise concept. So he's been both a franchisee and franchisor, and I think you'll find that he brings a lot of energy, a lot of passion to this interview. So without further ado, enjoy my interview with John. Hello, John. Welcome to Franchise Euphoria. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Josh. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you. You're part of a franchise concept I hadn't really heard about, didn't know much about, but I love that because there's a lot of concepts out there. There's close to, I think, 7,000 different kinds of franchise concepts. And obviously you're the COO of Been There, Dump That. And so that's BIN there and then dump, DUMP, that. And I'd love to just kick off the show by having you explain that for a second, and then we'll circle back to your background.
Great. We are the residential friendly dumpster company. And we're very specific about that here at Been There, Dump That, Josh, because there are, people have preconceptions about what a dumpster is and the experience that they might find themselves having if they order a dumpster at their home. And everything we do here at Been There, Dump That is what we call residential friendly. In fact, we're in business to make renting a dumpster at someone's home a simple and friendly experience, which frankly, in the industry we're in, makes us very unique.
Oh, it sounds like it. So essentially you're there, there's the pod storage places. I know when we moved a couple of years ago, we had one of those pod storage boxes on our driveway for for like 2.5 months.
Sure.
Just trying to get everything in there. But you're more from either a renovation or if somebody's going in and obviously, tearing down a house or something like that, they're literally renting a dumpster to be in the driveway.
That's exactly right. So about half the business we do is directly with homeowners who are doing some sort of a home project. And it's typically things like a kitchen renovation or a bathroom remodel, maybe redoing a basement. We do a lot of business with homeowners who are changing a roof, putting new roof shingles on, and they have to throw away the old roof shingles. And about half our business is directly with the homeowner, and the other half is with the contractor who is working at someone's home. So you'd never see our bin or our dumpster as like a regular container behind a restaurant or a manufacturing facility, for instance. Our stuff is, as we say, residential friendly, and it's built to sit in your driveway. The footprint of a typical bin from us is about the size of a minivan. So we've designed everything so that it goes in and out of a residential neighborhood in a way that doesn't upset the neighborhood, if you would.
And so these are customized dumpsters that have your branding on them and have a particular shape and size that are built for residential communities.
That's exactly right. And it's not just the dumpster itself, but it's the trucks that deliver the dumpster too. And you may imagine, a great big diesel truck with fumes belching out of it, maybe, scratching up your driveway or, a large vehicle. Our vehicles are about the size of a tow truck and look like a tow truck, really. And the bin is picked up and dropped by a hook mechanism. So it's not the old style cable type that you might imagine, but it's a really slick thing to watch, actually. And we have some videos and stuff online that gives people an opportunity to see how it works. And then, of course, the driver's in a uniform, so it's somebody that doesn't, you might not expect delivering a dumpster. So everything we do, it's all about fitting within that residential community.
So, John, growing up, I imagine part of your list of something you want to do was to be part of a dumpster company,
Yeah,
right?
I always aspired to be a garbage man, Josh. No, no,
Tell me about how you got into this.
it's funny. It's my background out of college, I started off as a sales rep with Xerox. You may be familiar with them, and selling copiers and fax machines. But what I learned there was how to communicate, how to take care of customers, and from that, I got into a number of small businesses. Dipped my toe in the world of franchising with another brand, became a franchisee, and had some good success. And from that, the franchisor with that company tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you're having some good success with your sales and marketing stuff." And frankly, I was just drawing upon my old sales experience. And they said to me, "Why don't you help us out by teaching some of the other franchisees in our system what you're doing?" And I jumped at the chance. And at the time, my wife was working with me. And so I would travel around a little bit to other franchises in that system and help them out with sales and marketing. And that was when I crossed over, if you would, from the franchisee side of the desk to the franchisor side of the desk. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. Fast forward a little bit, I got involved in some development for that company. And then they said, "Hey, this is working. Why don't you sell your franchise business and work for us full time?" And I did. And that was great. In fact, it was for me, it was a real turning point in my career. And I was working on the development side. I was doing some franchise support on the sales and marketing side. And the opportunity arose for me to be promoted within that company. But at that time, I would have had to move to their home office because I had been working out of my house at the time. And my kids were all in high school and I couldn't move. So I started to look around, and the timing couldn't have been more perfect for me. The guys here at Been There, Dump That were young, they were getting going, and they were looking for someone. We were introduced to each other, and that was 11 years ago now. And I'm very, very proud and happy to tell you that when I started with the company, I was the first ever employee of the franchisor. They brought me in to help them award some franchises. And if you fast forward to today, we are right at about 170 franchise territories across North America. And I have a super support team here that consists of 12 people that work with me. And it is a very, very fun ride we've been on, and a great time to be part of Been There, Dump That.
What a cool story.
Yeah.
Wow. So I love when I talk with people, and it's not every day, but it's certainly been a fair amount. And I think I've got over 240 episodes at this point. But where I talked to somebody who's been on the franchisee and the franchisor side of things, what was that like for you to make that transition?
It was a little scary. I mean, you go from being an entrepreneur, owning your own business, to going to work for the big bad home office, if you would, and I say that with tongue in cheek, obviously, because all the best franchise networks that I'm aware of start with an understanding that the franchisor does not work for the franchisee and the franchisee does not work for the franchisor. This is certainly a team-oriented industry. And I think that, for one thing, has really benefited me because I sort of go about my business and in leading Been There, Dump That, and working here with the understanding that we don't succeed unless the individual franchise location succeeds. And Josh, every good franchisor understands that we make our money on royalties, and we collect royalties when the franchise operators are being successful. So we come to work every day with a clear understanding that our job is to help them be as successful as possible. And like I said, I think that I'm lucky that I come from the franchisee side because I think I understand that as good as anybody.
Well, I think it's invaluable. I mean, whether it's just subconsciously or whatever, the fact that you've been a franchisee, you can relate to what they're going through. It's like, when you see somebody doing a job that you used to do or being in a position that you used to be in, even if it's in a totally different company, you sort of have a way to say, okay, I've been there, I understand that, so that when if there's issues or questions or things arise, I think that's got to be comforting to the franchisees to know that you are on their side of things. I got to imagine you probably talk about that as you're talking with prospective franchisees.
I always do. And in fact, hey, I've been the guy who stared down at my checkbook on Friday afternoon when it's time to write to do the payroll, and knowing that this week was the week that maybe I was the one that wasn't going to get the paycheck. So,
Exactly.
I can relate. I can absolutely relate. Yep.
So tell me this. Okay, so you go over the last 11-year period from being a part of the opening team here, the first employee, now to 170 locations. That's pretty phenomenal. Tell me the growth mechanism. Has this been through single units? Has this been through people who are buying multiple units? Has this been through people who are buying entire areas and then developing those areas? Or has it been a combination of all of the above?
It really has been a combination, but it's been an interesting evolution that we've gone through here. So, our largest location is still here where we started in the Toronto area. I mean, we started in Canada. I'm very proud of that too, Josh, because we're a little Canadian company that started here in Toronto, and when we decided to take Been There, Dump That to the United States, we did it in 2011 on our own. We did not award a master in the United States. We did not borrow.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's different.
Yeah,
It's different. And
different.
yeah, and we didn't even borrow any money. We did it organically with our own finances, and I'm very, very proud of that because that makes us a little bit unusual in franchising. But to get back to your question, we really concentrated on single units for the first few years as we were getting going. Like most small, startup franchises, it was find the right people, but we certainly weren't attracting the bigger thinkers, the more financially strong type candidates at the beginning, because you really have to prove yourself. But what we also concentrated on though was supporting our existing network, and helping them grow and show success as quickly as we possibly could, because of course that process of validation that new candidates go through when they talk to your existing network is, to me, the most important part of the thing. And if you have franchise operators that can say, yes, I'm growing, yes, I'm profitable, and yes, I would do it again, that's the key to the whole thing for me. So what we have found is that as we've grown, we've started to attract a different type of candidate. And then as we've gotten bigger and bigger, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, we've started offering a different type of program, which we call the City Builder, which is a multi-unit franchise opportunity right out of the gate. It's a little bit more of an investment, but people get larger geographic territories that are linked together, and they can and they start with a little bit more of a financial investment, and lo and behold, they grow faster and they grow bigger faster. So we found that has really worked well for us, and not only for the size of the company, but also for the quality of the candidates that we brought in. And please, that doesn't mean that we didn't have great candidates earlier on, because we certainly did, and they've really blazed the trail. But now we're getting people with a little bit more business experience, maybe previous franchise experience, and they're just growing bigger and faster.
No, that's fantastic. Tell me, because I want to talk about here in a minute. I want to talk about your franchisees, the type of franchisees you're looking for, sort of your target market, your target avatar. But before I do, I do want to dive in a little bit on your expansion into the US, because you're right, it is very unique and unusual. Typically, when a franchise system is expanding into another country beyond borders and so forth, they're often doing it through the master franchise, where they're getting somebody, for people listening who don't know what that is, it's when you get somebody within the territory you're going to who buys in to then basically almost serve as a representative in that new territory to then help grow the franchise. And there's many reasons why a company would do that. Tell me about what you guys went through, why you decided not to do that, and then how you set the path to then grow in the US.
So I think a lot of it had to do with my own personal experience in franchising, which was I was a Canadian who had a franchise location in Canada for a US company. And I then went to work for that US company. So I was very familiar with franchising in the United States and how that worked. There are certainly a lot of great things that can happen when you use a master, but at the end of the day, you're always relying on that master and you're always splitting with that master. We made a conscious decision that we felt that if we had the right plan, we could do it. We're very lucky in that our business model is a simple one. I say this all the time, but we literally take steel boxes and we put them in people's driveways, and when they're full, we take them to the dump. I mean, that's what we do. We're not splitting atoms over here. So, you know, it was, and I say that a little bit jokingly, but frankly, the simplicity of our business model is one of our real advantages, if you would.
Well, that's one of the great advantages. I mean, whenever I'm working with somebody or talking about franchise, I mean, one of the great things and great challenges for a lot of business is to simplify it
Yeah.
enough to focus on the real core of it. And that's what you need to franchise. And a lot of people get that wrong. So I think you're exactly right. I mean, having a simple, repeatable business is a fantastic way to franchise.
Well, it's worked for us, and I think you're absolutely right. And ours is simple. Now, I do say this a lot though when I'm talking to candidates. Please don't mistake the word simple for easy, because no small business is easy, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes a proven model, and it takes adherence to that model. But if you do it with been there, dump that, it works. And like I say, we're not splitting atoms over here. We're just doing it a lot better than everyone else in our industry.
Well, yeah, you guys have found a differentiator,
Yeah,
a way to distinguish yourself, to differentiate yourself. Tell me this. So who are you looking for as franchisees? I mean, if you got 170
yep,
locations, if you had the choice, if you could go pick, what type of franchisee fits the mold?
yeah. So before I answer your question, I just want to be really clear. So we have just over 170 territories, but a bunch of them are now multi-unit territories. So we have about 111 franchisees operating those territories. So yeah.
Perfect.
Now that said, who are we looking for? This is a very interesting question, because we are looking for, and this is going to sound really general to you, but we want people with a solid, generic management type business background. We want people who may or may not have a customer service or sales oriented background, but we'll take anyone whose background is solid. The one quality we look for is a proven ability to communicate. And I know that sounds really simple, but it's not. Communication to me is the key to business. We look for people that know how to communicate verbally, that have good writing skills, because our business is built on relationship building. And I want you to think about, getting involved in the local construction association. We're very active members of the National Association of the Remodeling Industry. We encourage our franchise operators to actually reach out to the contractors in their communities and build relationships with them. And we don't call it sales, Josh. We call it relationship building. So, an ability to communicate for us is very, very high on our priority list.
So how do you check that? I mean, how do you measure that? I mean, if somebody applies and they say, "Hey, I'm a great communicator," that's wonderful. But how do you measure that?
We interview them. And I say that offhandedly, but we aspire to be a franchisor that understands that we're not selling anything. We are awarding a franchise to the right candidate. And so the process that we take our candidates through, we call it a mutual interview. And it takes typically somewhere between 45 and 90 days to go through the process. It's very structured. They have homework to do along the way. And it's the process itself is designed, first of all, to point people in the places they need to go to figure out if this is for them. But it's also designed for us to be able to assess how this candidate communicates both verbally and can they go through a set system effectively to get to the end of the process. And it's worked quite well for us. I don't think we've reinvented anything, but we've just put a real emphasis on assessing whether we think that the franchise operator is able to communicate in a way that we need them to. And personality factors into that. And so we're looking for people that want to work hard, work specifically in a system, and have fun while they're doing it. Team orientation is what we're after here. We want them to be able to work with others.
Are there certain locations you're looking to expand in now in the U.S., or do you have it regionally focused, or are you looking all over?
Well, we're looking all over, but it's funny. You can focus regionally if you want to, but in this day and age, with 95% of all your candidates somehow finding you online, I find that the regional, it's just hard. It's hard to pin it down. Now we've had, it's here's a funny story. When we decided to take our concept to the United States, we had this great plan that we were going to concentrate on New York State, Pennsylvania, Michigan, sort of the border states that were not too far from us. And we thought we'll end up in places that we can easily get to support people.
Well, that's the idea, right? That's the idea,
yeah.
Right? So that as you're getting going, okay. And then what happened?
Well, that was our idea. And then here's what happened. Number 1 and 1A were in Little Rock, Arkansas, and Austin, Texas. So there you go. So that sort of shot our plan up a little bit. But so to be frank, the world is small now, and North America is not a big place when it comes to communicating with all the tools we have, whether it be email or Skype or texting, or anything that you can do to communicate with others. And so we haven't got to California yet. We'd love to get to California, and that's on our to-do list for this year for sure. We're gonna spend a little bit of our advertising efforts to get ourselves some good people in California. But other than that, we're sort of spread all over the place. We have a great group in Texas. We have a wonderful group that covers the whole state of Colorado now, but we're also strong in Florida and Pennsylvania and Ohio, and it's very exciting. In New Jersey, we have 2 multi-unit franchise operators that cover about a third of New Jersey now, that have just come into our system in just over the last year or so, and are just doing fantastic business. So we're a company with a service that applies in every region of North America, and we're working hard to do our best everywhere.
And so it sounds like, the franchisee a lot of what he or she is going to do is going to be building relationships with contractors, with realtors, with bank officers, you just run down the line of who has these connections with these residential community, with homeowners associations. Those sorts of things. That's really going to be what the franchisee is doing. And then obviously contracting people or hiring people, however the system is set up, to then deliver the bins, pick them up, schedule all that, and go through that process. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, that's very accurate. We're nothing against truck drivers, but we're not looking for people who see themselves driving the truck. We're looking for people who see themselves running a business. We have proprietary software that is operational that helps.
Like with scheduling and everything, I would imagine.
Yeah, scheduling and dispatching and scheduling your deliveries and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we're looking for people that want to build the business. I don't want to say not run the business, because you're going to run the business too. But we want your focus to be on building that business and putting the right people in the right roles to operate the business on behalf of your franchise location. So, and we're very specific about those roles too. Our drivers are not called drivers. At Been There, Dump That, if you're delivering bins, you are a dumpster delivery expert.
That's great.
And it says that right on your business card, and it says it right on the front of your shirt. And if you're answering the phone for us, there was a time when we called that inside sales, and we recognized and realized that was not an accurate description. And so if you're answering the phone at Been There, Dump That, then you are a dumpster consultant. And we work hard at putting the right people in those roles, because in our industry, I think that makes us unique.
So if somebody wants to become a dumpster franchisee, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you or the business?
The best thing to do is to go to BeenThereDumpThatFranchise.com, Or if you just went to beenthere.dumpthat.com, you'd find a link to learn more about us. And that puts you into our process. We have tons of information on our website. That's a funny thing, Josh. You've been at this a while. There was a time when franchisors would put less information up online or in brochures because the idea was that they always wanted the candidate to pick up the phone and call you. Well, we recognized a few years ago, people don't want to do that. What they want to do is they want to learn. They want to do as much research as they possibly can. And now it's online before they call you. So we've provided as much information as we possibly can so that people can do some due diligence and feel comfortable that this is a place that they can see themselves before they reach out to us. And so beenthere.dumpthatfranchise.com is a good place to start.
Well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this interview. First of all, it's a concept I wasn't familiar with. And like I said, I've been doing franchise stuff for over 10 years, so I've seen a lot of concepts. But I love the professionalism in which you guys are obviously treating it. And I say that sincerely because there's a lot of systems that don't go to that level of professionalism and systematizing and operations. And so I think that that's a credit to you guys, and I wish you the best of luck in your future growth.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Franchise Euphoria. If you enjoyed this episode or have enjoyed the podcast in general, I would really appreciate it if you could go to iTunes and leave me a rating and review. It really helps to get this podcast out to more and more people. So the easy way to do it is go to iTunes and in the search box, put in Franchise Euphoria. You will then see my cover art and you click on my smiling face that says Franchise Euphoria, and then click on the link that says ratings and reviews. It's that simple, but boy, oh boy, does it mean the world to me when people leave ratings and reviews. And like I said, it really helps get the show out there. Once again, would love it if you would go to iTunes and leave a rating and review if you enjoyed this episode or other episodes of the show. And until the next time, happy franchising.